Hi everybody. I'm really excited to do this tag. Amber in Wonderland put it together, and it's called Men of Tarot, and it makes me just feel happy to give some gratitude to the men that I've been following on YouTube for a while. So rather than worrying about leaving anyone out, what I'm going to do is talk about the 5 channels run by men that I've been following the longest, so therefore I know their content the best. Okay, so the first one I want to talk about is Sauron. I will link the channels below. Okay, so Sauron is a very thoughtful and intelligent man. He knows tarot, he knows oracle decks, he knows Sibylla and Lenormand, and he also knows several different languages. I respect that so much. So he can speak the language of divination and several languages of the world, German, Italian, and on and on. I'm not sure what his count is up to at this point. And I also notice about Sauron that he's very intuitive as well. So he's really blending those different energies, the intelligence and that heart space. I find him that he's always been very kind to me when there have been several times I've written to him regarding a deck that I wasn't sure about, and he always has gotten back to me with helpful information about his take on the deck. So thank you, Sauron. I think your channel is fantastic, and I think you have a beautiful heart. So the next person I want to talk about is Chase from Two of Owls, and he has an energy that I find very inspiring. So he sort of has that Wands energy, and I feel what I get from him is that he has sincere desire to use that energy to help people maybe that feel a little stuck, to help them move forward. It really comes through. His sincerity comes through. And another thing that comes through with him that I see is he has a lot of care about his own spiritual path. So, and you know, he has interesting tarot decks and quite a passion for the ones that he has. And I get the feeling that pretty much anything that he does with fervor and passion. So my gratitude to Chase. And let's see. Okay, yeah, I want to talk about Tom Benjamin. He is a wonderful teacher. One of the things I like so very much about Tom is that he seems to just know how to get all those thoughts in his head out to our heads. You know, he's very good at that. And I think one of the ways he's so good at it is because he has a warmth about him and a really nice sense of humor. He's very relatable. And I appreciate what I've learned from him. And I appreciate, I don't know, just a similar way that I feel about certain decks and books. I notice that the ones that he likes, I tend to like for the most part. And the ones that he doesn't like, I tend to have the same kind of feelings about decks and books. So that's just a little side note. And you know, his book is very interesting and helpful, as his channel is. So thank you, Tom. Okay, Stephen Bright. You know, he's quite a character. One of the things I notice about him that I really appreciate about Stephen is he has a way of speaking. There's a sort of a patience and a calmness in his voice, so that when I'm listening to him, I really feel sometimes like I could just be in that same room with him. He's very welcoming, and he's a creative man. Of course, he has the beautiful Spirit Within tarot, and he has some other decks that he's created that are not published. They're more maybe personal decks. One time, he was showing some cards from one of his decks, and I was struck by the beauty of this particular card. And it was called Boy of the Sea, and I dropped him a line about it, and I wrote to him, just about that card, and he took the time to write back and explain to me who the inspiration was behind that card that he created. And that was a nice exchange, and I appreciate that. Okay, and I guess now the fifth person, the fifth man that I've known the longest and followed is Simon from Hermit's Cave. And one of the things about Simon that is a highly respected trait for me, almost an enviable trait that he carries, is he really knows how to connect with people. He knows how to make inroads to people, and just this incredible way of gathering people and making good friendships. And for me, sort of being a private person and a bit of a loner, I really admire that and would like to have a little bit more of that trait in my life. Simon is very passionate about the art that he has that he sees in the decks. And you'll notice that when he does an unboxing, he really, you could tell he's just so fascinated by the cards. And sometimes even decks or cards that, really don't speak to me, he can see the beauty in them. And that's a nice way, that's a nice exchange, because it gets me to think a little bit, maybe in a softer way or a little bit differently about that deck or card. So those are the five men, like I said, that I know the best, and I want to thank all of them. So there are a few other guys that I've just recently learned about, and one of them is Will from Atypical Tarot, and I learned about him through Maha, and what a beautiful man he is. I learned about Read the Wonder through Simon, and just recently Brian Cormac Carr. Now, there is a man on, I think it's Instagram. I'm not on Instagram or Facebook, but I believe he's on Instagram, and he's really a beautiful young man, creative man, and his channel name is Fluxus and the Snow Goose. And if you ever check that out, and I hope you will, you'll see that he has a very elegant collection of decks, and he is the one responsible for me buying the Tildwick Tarot, which in itself is also, it's a beautiful and elegant deck. And I do want to mention, speaking of the Tildwick, I want to give my gratitude to the creator, Neil Lovell, who I recently learned has passed away. I think it was maybe last month he passed away. So I wish Neil the best on the journey that he currently is on. And I do want to give my gratitude to some of the other deck creators, the men who have affected me in my life, influenced my tarot readings. Robert Place, I started with his Alchemical Tarot several years ago, and it's had an impact on me. His books and his decks I find are beautiful and interesting. He's a fascinating man. And Patrick Valenza, creator of the Deviant Moon, and he also has his Marseille deck. I do have both of those decks. And this guy is just full of energy to, he has several projects that he's working on as far as decks and other things. His book about the Deviant Moon, I do not have it. I've heard great things about it, and it's sort of in the back of my mind on a so-called list. But Simon from Hermit's Cave did an interview with Patrick a few weeks back, and I was so happy to see it. It was really interesting, and it was inspiring. And I want to mention a couple more guys here. Let's give some kudos to Ciro Marchetti, who's put out, several decks, and he. I feel there is such a sincerity with him to try to. Get little twists, little different ways of looking at the same old cards, but still keeping very closely to the Rider-Waite tradition. There's a young man, Tony DeMauro, and I really like his Darkness of Light tarot, especially now that he's put out this second edition that's borderless, or pretty much borderless. There's something about that deck. there's a beauty and an intimacy, and it's sort of at the same time a little bit of an edginess to that deck. A very writer, though, very easy to read. And if you read his PDF, he has some interesting takes on it too, his own cards. There's the people in his deck have like a little bit of a strength and a gravity to them, which I do find more in male artists, and I like that. You know, I guess I should mention even Ian Daniels, who has taught me through his wonderful book that accompanies his Vampire Tarot. So I guess I will leave it at that. But I want to just offer once again my appreciation to the Men of Tarot. Blessings to everyone, and bye for now.